Okay, welcome back everybody to spread number 18. Today, Carmen is going to be presenting on systems for success. Before I hand it over to her, just some housekeeping. After Carmen's presentation, William's going to talk about a little book club that we're going to start. If anyone wants to read with us, just talk about what we're reading. I'm going to hand it over to Carmen.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. I want to jump right in with a small activity. On the next slide is a chart with the numbers from 1 to 54. Your challenge is to find each number on the chart in order starting from 1, then 2, then 3, and so on all the way to 54. I'm going to time you for 60 seconds and see how many numbers you can find. There's no missing numbers or tricks. There's actually just 54 numbers. All right, so here is this chart, and I'm gonna start the timer. Ready, go. Thirty seconds. Ten. And time. All right, so how far did you guys get? Feel free to put it down in the chat. Let me open the chat as well. Yeah, so on average, most people get somewhere in the 20s. The first time I did it, I actually got 7. But now I want you to try again, but this time I'm going to give you a organizing method to help you locate the numbers. On this slide, I've divided up the box into 9 equal squares. To find the number, just follow the pattern. In other words, the first number is in box 1, then the next number is in box 2, the number after that is in box 3, and so on until box 9. And then when you reach box 9, go back to box 1. So let's try this again and see how far you get. Ready, get set, go. 30 seconds. Ten. And time. How did you guys do? So with the framework, most people successfully complete the challenge under a minute. And what did we gain from this activity? What was I trying to show? So you trying to find 1 through 54 without a framework is like you stumbling through life without principles. And when we redid the activity with the framework, we were much more efficient and effective in finding all those numbers. So how does this apply to our lives? We don't want to stumble through life taking it one day at a time, but we also don't want to obsess over whether everything we do is correct or not. Applying frameworks to our life gives us direction and guidance while avoiding existential crisis at every decision point. True effectiveness allows you to balance all aspects of your life, such as health, your family, career, personal development. It enables us to be more creative. When we're more effective, we master the basics faster, which frees up more time for us to focus on being creative. And taking these two concepts, framework and effectiveness, these are what inspired me for today's topic, systems for success. I wanted to learn how I can live my life to the fullest, to be happy, to be successful. How can I achieve my goals? And I wanted to share with you guys what I learned so that you can also be happier, healthier, have a better life. In today's session, we'll review several frameworks which focus on environmental design and mindset. Then we'll take some time to apply each of these frameworks to your life so we can see um, how effective it is. And then the goal is to really see how you can use these frameworks to help you become the best person you can be and to achieve whatever you want to achieve. So the top self-improvement book of the year was definitely Atomic Habits by James Clear. He believes in the power of small actions that you can perform on a daily basis, which results in a habit that is conducive to achieving your desired outcome or behavior. And Clear actually created his habit framework based on the stimulus and response theory. This theory states that behaviors followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated, and those that produce unpleasant consequences are less likely to be repeated. And this was shown through studies on cats and how they behaved when they were put into a contraption known as a puzzle box. The box was designed so that the cat can escape through the door if they find the magic button. For example, pulling a rope, pressing a lever, or stepping on a platform. And at first, these cats would randomly walk around the box and they would poke their nose around, stick their paws through openings, claw at loose objects, and then they'll stumble on the trigger, which opens the door, and then they're free. And usually it takes 2 to 3 minutes initially for them to find the magic button. But as these studies were repeated multiple times with the same cat, we could actually see that the cat escapes faster and faster from the box each time. And this, we can see that the cats learn to directly pull the lever or something like that and skip all the actions that did not produce any results. This study is relevant because this is how we form habits in our own everyday lives. We repeat the things that produce pleasant outcomes and we avoid the ones that make us uncomfortable. From this stimulus and response theory, Claire created the habit loop framework. Claire states that these 4 steps, cue, craving, response, and reward, are the backbone of every habit. Note that order actually matters here. So your brain runs through these 4 steps in sequence to form a habit. If even one of them aren't fulfilled, then no habit is established. So how would this apply to, for example, our phones? The cue is a stimulus that triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. In this scenario, your phone vibrates or your phone rings to indicate a new text message. And cues are meaningless unless they are interpreted. The thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are triggered is what transforms a cue into a craving. This is your motivational force behind every habit. Without some level of motivation or desire, we have no reason to act. In this scenario, you want to learn the contents of the message in your phone. That's the craving. Response, that's the actual habit you perform, which can take the form of a thought or an action. For example, when you grab your phone and you read the text message. And whether a response occurs depends on 1, how motivated you are, and 2, how much friction is associated with that behavior. If a particular action requires more physical or mental effort than you're willing to expend, then you won't do it. For example, maybe at the end of the day, you washed your clothes and you take your laundry to your room and you put it on your bed. But then it takes too much effort at night to fold your clothes because you're already so tired. So you just end up sleeping with your clothes in the bed because the necessary to fold your laundry is too great because it's too tiring at night. Um, and finally, we have the reward, which is the end goal of every habit. And this is to satisfy your craving and also to teach us which actions are worth remembering. For example, in this scenario, you satisfy your craving to read the message. And so now grabbing your phone has become a habit. You associate that with your phone buzzing so you can satisfy the your curiosity. And so how can we create a good habit? Well, we want to lower the barriers to this habit in each of these 4 steps. Make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. For example, how could we make a cue obvious? If I wanted to drink more water, I would put out cups of water on my desk, around the house, by the TV, staircase, all corners of my room. And then how can we make a craving attractive? I could flavor my water, put some lemons or fruit or tea in it. And then how can we make it easy? I would use cups without lids so I can just grab and drink water. And then how can I make it satisfying? I could have a chart that keeps track of how many cups of water I drink each day so that if my goal is to drink 8, I can cross out 1 cup every time I finish one. So that's kind of satisfying. In contrast, if I want to break a bad habit, then I would do the reverse. I would make the cue invisible, the craving unattractive, the response difficult, and the reward unsatisfying. So how can we make a cue invisible? One of my goals was to stop scrolling on Instagram. I would find myself, I would spend a lot of time on Instagram just scrolling. And so in order to make it invisible, I put it at the end of my phone's home screen slide. I had like 4. So I just put it at the end instead of putting it on the first home screen. How can I make it unattractive? With the new iOS version, you can actually replace the Instagram logo with your own logo or design. So I could actually make that nondescript, not pleasing to the eye. How can we make the response difficult? Because I placed the app at the end of my home screen, I have to swipe it left 4 times in order to open the app. And then how can we make it unsatisfying? I created a shortcut that automatically triggers a 5-minute alarm when Instagram is open when I open Instagram. So after the 5-minute mark, my alarm will go off. And it's actually kind of annoying after a while. And then I actually broke my habit. Whenever I go on Instagram, literally it's just for 5 minutes now. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, it's been 5 minutes, time to do something else. So now I'm going to turn it to you guys. I'm going to split everyone off into breakout rooms and discuss one habit you'd like to create or break and how you can decrease or increase the barriers to that habit. And we'll take like 5-7 minutes doing this. So let me assign breakout rooms. There's 13 of us. Let's see. I'm going to make 3 breakout rooms. And before I do that, I also wanted to share some reference slides in the chat. So that's you can open that chat, those slides up, and I'm gonna open all rooms. So I'll call you guys back in like 5 minutes. Welcome back. How did that go? Does anyone want to share a habit that they either want to create or break
Well, one habit I've been trying to get into is every day I wake up and I start off my day by saying it's a great day, and that way it kind of like floats throughout the rest of my day. You know, sets the tone for the rest
Sets
of
the
the day.
tone, sets your intention for the day.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Yeah. And do you do it? Is there like a certain time that you do it at, like in front of the mirror when you're brushing your teeth, or?
So I put my phone away from where I sleep and then with my alarm, and I put a sticky note right underneath where it says like today is going to be a great day. So the moment I wake up, I see the sticky note, and that's when I say it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that, like, if we apply that to the habit framework, then you made your cue really obvious because you can see that sticky note every single day. Does anyone else want to share their what habit they want to break or create, and then how they can make it obvious or invisible?
So my group was talking about trying to exercise more, and then we were talking about like how like we do have like systems where we would get reminded, but then like we would kind of like ignore that, and then we would get desensitized by that. And so we were talking about trying to make it more obvious, like actually like having a physical stimulus or something to kind of like make us want to exercise more.
Mm, mm, yeah, exercising is always hard. Yeah, I think it's that first step. And then room two, so like Carbo's group, Sabrina, Andy, James. Did you guys have a particular habit that you wanted to create or break?
A couple of us wanted to start reading more because we all bought a bunch of books and just haven't been able to read them. Um, put them more close to us, more in our perspective, in our vicinity. And Andy said he was gonna put his receipts as bookmarks so it can remind himself how much he paid for books
Oh
to start
yeah,
reading more.
yeah, that's a good one. Actually, yeah, I actually the next kind of activity or concept that we're going to touch upon touches upon the two things that you guys are like having difficult doing. Um, I think the workout example and also the reading a book. So let me share my screen. Do you see it? Okay. So suppose you have two people, person A and person B, with the same goal, walking more. And person A does a 12-mile hike because this person's very energized. He's like, yes, let's do it. Let's walk more. And so he goes on a 12-mile hike on Saturday. And then person B does 10 minutes of walking a day. So if we think about like who is going to be able to successfully create a habit that's sustainable, um, according to Claire, it's going to be person B. And he shows this graph, and it's a graph that shows the number of times a person goes for a 10-minute walk after the breakfast versus how automatic the behavior is, which is the y-axis. And you'll see that as the repetition increases, so does automaticity until the behavior is as easy and as automatic as it can be. And the key idea in this graph is that a habit is formed not based on the amount of time you put in, but the number of times that you performed it. So it's not, for example, going onto a 12-mile hike and it takes you 6 hours versus going to on a 10-minute walk every single day. So based on uh, these results, James created something he called the 2-minute rule to help a person establish a habit. When you start a habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. And the goal here is to just establish the consistency to start the habit, because if you can't show up for yourself, then you can't master the finer details of the habit. So what does that look like in practice? We can break down a goal into 5 levels of difficulty from easy to very hard. For example, let's say that your goal is to run a marathon. First, we'd identify an activity we can do in each of these difficulty levels. For example, if we want to run a marathon, then a hard thing to do would be run a 5K. And maybe a moderate thing to do would be walk 10,000 steps. And something easier than that is walk 10 minutes. And then very easy would be put on your running shoes. And you see that in the very easy column, this should take less than 2 minutes to do. Something that's very easy for you. And this actually goes back to the habit framework that we were looking at earlier, that we want to make the cue obvious, make it easy for yourself, make it attractive, right? So another example would be writing a book. Writing a book would be something that's very hard because it takes a lot of time. But if we can simplify, break down those steps, we can, for example, write a 5,000 word article or write 1,000 words if it's a moderate. We can write one paragraph. That's an easier task. And then for very easy, just write one sentence per day. And so on and so forth. So taking this framework, I'm gonna split you guys off into rooms again, 5 minutes, and then take some time with your group to plan habits with this 2-minute rule. And yeah, feel free to break a habit down into the 5 steps. I sent you a reference slide, and then I'm gonna break you guys off into rooms again. I'm gonna recreate it, I'm gonna mix it up. All right. Is there a goal that you guys talked about, and does anyone want to share?
Yes, I will share.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Yes, so my goal is to find a new job. My easy would be to update my resume, or my very easy would be to update my resume. My easy would be to decide like a career path, like a specific field I want to go into. Moderate would be to go on like LinkedIn or something and look for actual jobs. Hard would be to start applying for jobs, and very hard would be to actually get the job.
All right, good goal. And do you think so? For your easy one, you said to update your resume.
Yes.
Would you do it like I know like it's like a 2-minute rule thing, but like, do you see yourself kind of like, okay, I'm gonna spend like 5-10 minutes every single day to just update my resume, or like just update your resume in one go?
I think I would probably update my resume in one go.
Mm-hmm. That's a good goal. Does
Yes,
anyone
this
else?
year for sure.
Yes, good luck. Does anyone else want to share a goal that they broke down?
I think Bowden has a pretty good one.
Yeah, me
Mine
too. Bowden has a
was
good one.
mine was I wanted to read more, and I think very easy would be something as simple as like picking up the book, and then easy would be like reading for like 10 minutes. Moderate to hard would be like reading 1 to 2 chapters depending on how long the chapters are, and then very hard would be, I don't know, like finishing the whole book. I don't know,
Mm.
something like that.
Yeah, finishing the whole book is I would consider that the hard one. Yeah, but that's a good easy one to start. Like, just pick up the book at least once a day, and then if you feel up to it, just open the book and read it. Anyone else? William's room? Do you guys want to?
Yeah, I was like, I wanted to write more. That was my habit that I wanted to establish. So the prime suggestion was to follow the 2-minute rule and sit down every day at 9 p.m. and like write something or think about writing something. So that would be like the baby step. Not sure about like more going up the steps. I guess just like writing more, writing like a full page would be like moderate. Hard would be like finishing a whole sort of short story, and like very hard would be like doing a whole book.
Ooh, yeah, that's exciting. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Okay, if not, I'm going to share my screen. Am I sharing? I can't tell. Okay, thanks. And okay, so to summarize, I think the hardest part about starting a new habit is actually channeling your energy, because in the initial part, like you're really excited, you're really motivated, so you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go all out. But the actual hard part is channeling that energy and identifying, like, break it down into the smallest step you can make and go with the 2-minute rule. Because the graph showed, it's actually just harder to, a habit is formed based on the amount of times that you do it, not the time that you put into it. So I think the hardest part for me is definitely like channeling my energy so that I start the habit and make it more a habitual thing. Okay, I'm gonna put on my shoelaces, or I'm gonna put on my shoes, tie my shoelaces, even if I'm not gonna go work out. And as mentioned before, the habit loop framework was based on the stimulus and response theory. And you've probably seen other examples of this, maybe in high school, where there's like examples of conditioning a dog to salivate when they hear a whistle, or teaching a rat to press on a lever to receive food. Based on this framework, all we have to do is manipulate our physical environment to cause the desired response and create a good habit or break a bad habit. However, is there a different way to achieve our goals besides this stimulus and response theory? Yes, there is. Oh, here's a picture of the dog. This new idea points out that humans are special and have self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent will. Therefore, we, as opposed to other animals, are able to freely change our response, even in the face of a stimulus. This is known as freedom to choose. We are aware and can choose our responses instead of brainwashing ourselves into reaction machines. Because we are self-aware, we are able to stand apart from ourselves and observe our beliefs, attitudes, actions, and behaviors. Because we have imagination, we can envision alternate possibilities, alternate realities, as opposed to instinctively reacting to a stimulus. Because we have conscience, we are able to discern right from wrong and respond accordingly. And because we have independent will, we can act outside of all other influences. For example, if we just take a step back and think about the last 46 minutes, we were thinking in terms of the initial stimulus and response model and seeing how this framework would influence our actions to create or break habits. However, now we're considering a different stimulus response model and seeing how this framework would influence our actions. And we can only do that because we can imagine, we can use our imagination and think about other possible realities. So now, how can we apply this new framework, this what I call the proactive framework, to ourselves? Let's first identify if we are reactive or proactive by examining our language use. Someone who is reactive uses the following language: there's nothing I can do, that's just the way I am, he makes me so mad, they won't allow that, I have to do that, I can't, I must, if only. And I've found that I tend to use reactive language. Um, I do a combination of both, but I definitely know that I do use reactive language. For example, I'll tell Stephen, I can't hang out with you. I have to do homework for my MBA classes. Or for another example, I can't dance. That's just the way I am. However, if we look at someone who is proactive, who uses proactive language, they'll say, let's look at other alternatives. I can choose a different approach. I control my own feelings. I create an effective I can create an effective presentation. I will choose an appropriate response. I choose, I prefer, I will. So if I were to take my response for Stephen, instead of telling him I can't hang out with you, I would tell him, Stephen, I will not go out today. I choose to do my homework for my MBA classes, so I'm prepared for lecture. Or for example, instead of saying I can't dance, that's just the way I am, I can say I choose not to dance. I choose to play volleyball. So now I'm going to break you guys off into rooms again and have you guys reflect on the past week. When have you used reactive language? And if you were to go back, how would you rephrase your statement in a proactive language? Welcome back, everyone. Who'd like to share what they talked about?
Oh, Andy and I had the same sort of thing. We were talking about writing our finals papers. I thought I was reactive when I said I must write my papers, and then I changed to proactive by saying I should write them later. I thought that was right, but it wasn't right, I guess.
When you say you should, that's also, I guess, you said you should write it later?
I said, yeah, I should write it later, or I'll write it later, something like that.
I will write it later. Yeah, I feel like that's a proactive. Well, you're using proactive language, but it's more of like, are you actually going to write it later, or is it just saying that you're going to write it later? But like your usage is proactive language.
Okay then.
Andy, you said the same thing.
So at work, my boss told me to get some reports to them, and I said, sorry, I can't get these reports to you on time. But instead, I should have said, I chose to prioritize other things besides this report.
Yeah, that's kind of. What if your boss got mad at you for that, though? That's what I mean.
So I said I should have said that.
Yeah. Good thing you didn't. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, if it's like for a legitimate reason, like I can't, I prefer to give it to you at maybe a later time because XYZ kind of thing.
Yeah. I probably should have went like, I prefer you get off my back.
Yeah. How about this? No. Yeah.
All right. Who else?
Mine was just like Thursday. I was telling myself I was gonna run, but then I was like, I can't. I'm too tired. So I just went and took a nap. And I guess I could have said, I choose to take this nap as an act of self-care and self-love. So that's what I did.
Perfect. And maybe someone from Amy's room?
So for my example, I use that like whenever I have to interact with my boss, it like she just makes me very frustrated. And so then that's my reactive language. She makes me so frustrated. My proactive language is like what she's doing is separate from my own feelings, and so I can learn to control my feelings towards her actions.
Yeah. That's definitely more proactive mindset. All right. Thank you for sharing, everyone. Let us discuss like why is it important to be proactive? Why should I use I choose statements instead of using kind of more reactive language? Using I choose statements empowers us to develop the narrative of our lives and to view life with purpose and gives our actions meanings. I think really we have to focus on like what type of language that we use. Using proactive language enables us to have greater self-confidence and identity, and you'll be aware of your values, your sense of identity, integrity, control, and inner directedness. You won't have to feel guilty for prioritizing one thing over another, and you can replace old patterns of self-defeating behavior with new patterns, new habits of effectiveness, happiness, and trust-based relationships. So to recap, This new framework allows us to be even more effective by focusing on changing ourselves from within rather than trying to change our external environments. And because there's a limit to how much you can change your environment. For example, physical location, there's only so much space I have in my room. If I wanted to work out, I should just put weights out in my room along with my yoga mat. But then very quickly, I'll realize I ran out of room to actually put everything out. So I guess I can't change my response. If we're talking about another kind of environment, changing your environment, I can't control what other people do. I can't change how they see the world, or I can't change their actions. So by focusing on your internal, what's within your internal control, you have the ability to 100% control that versus your external environment. So now we're taking more of a top-down approach rather than a bottom-up approach. A top-down approach consists of first acknowledging that we are in control, then to identify our own principles. Principles in this case are natural laws, rules that don't easily change and are not easily broken. For example, honesty, fairness, integrity. If one of our principles is to be honest in everything we do, when we go against that principle by lying or by cheating, we feel disturbed and conflicted, and we're not going to be happy or peaceful. Instead, we need to live life in alignment with these principles to be happy and fulfilled. But then these principles are pretty vague. Like, how can we apply it to our daily lives? We can translate these principles into a personal mission statement. The personal mission statement is a philosophy to life. It focuses on what you want to be, so your character, and to do what you want to do, your contributions and achievements, according to those principles. Each individual is unique and has their own personal mission statement based on their own experiences and history. So, in turn, your mission statement will guide you to develop your character and habits that best align with all of the above. And you'll be able to determine the right attitudes and behaviors in your daily interactions with those around you because you already have your personal mission statement and your principles. So principles will act as your compass, which tell you if you're heading in the right direction or not. For example, an analogy you can think of is that most people are in a forest hacking away at trees and bushes to clear a path. However, a principled person will climb a tree and see that the group is heading in the wrong direction. So by identifying your set of principles, you're creating your vision of your future so you can work towards that future instead of kind of being in the forest randomly hacking away at trees. Having principles will give you something to work towards and give you more direction in life. Your principles will enable you to handle any situation, the challenges you may face, and the unknown future. Many times people can't live with change or they can't handle change well because they're unclear of their identity and values. And so the key to the ability to change is to know who you are, what you are about, and what you value. Your principles will also enable you to live a guilt-free life. Many times people will make a decision but then feel anxious or frustrated, stressed about the decision afterward or maybe even during because they feel like they have to give up. They have to give the alternative up or, for example, disappoint their family or friend if they choose one decision over the other or yeah, they'll stress about it. However, a person who is principled will evaluate all the possible choices and their consequences and make a decision based on that principles. And they won't feel guilty or those have those negative emotions because they know that their decision has been evaluated and that's what they choose. It's like you don't have to feel guilty about maybe choosing one option over the other. And in the long term, you know your decisions is most effective because it's based on principles. So you'll have you'll be able to handle anything that comes your way. And so how do I wanted to kind of break that down even more. So here are some examples of mission statements that you can tell have really guided the individual on how to live their life. Gandhi is recognized for his contribution and leadership in the nonviolent campaign for India's independence from British rule, and he inspired a lot of civil rights and freedom movements across the globe. Can someone help me read his mission statement?
Okay, I can do it. So let the first act of every morning be to make the following resolve for the day. I shall not fear anyone on earth. I shall fear only God. I shall not bear ill will toward anyone. I shall not submit to injustice from anyone. I shall conquer untruth by truth. And in resisting untruth, I shall put up with all suffering.
Thanks, Amy. So his statement really shows us that he values courage, faith, kindness, justice, truth, and strength. I think because you can see just based on his mission statement how guided he is. Like he has a direction in life. He knows how to live his life. Another example that I really value or that I really appreciate is also the one by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can someone help me read this one?
A well-built physique is more than vanity. It shows discipline, dignity, and dedication. It requires patience, passion, and self-respect. It cannot be bought, stolen, or inherited. It cannot be held onto without constant work.
Thank you, Stephen. So, among his many achievements, such as being the former governor of California, he also won the Mr. Universe title at age 20, and also he won Mr. Olympia 7 times. So I think really we can tell from his like mission statement, his values of like discipline, dignity, dedication, patience, self-respect, passion, integrity, and consistency. And we can really tell like what his purpose and how driven he is. So let's apply this framework by first identifying our own principles. Yes, we should abide by like integrity and fairness, but I think there's certain principles that you particularly vibe with because of your past experiences. So I want you to like just take a minute here and identify the ones you value the most. Okay. And we're going to take these principles, and what I want to spend like the next 10 minutes or so on is to like reflect by yourself. And I'm going to give you a prompt, and it's going to help you form your basic mission statement. Okay, so here's the prompt. In your mind's eye, see yourself going to the funeral of a loved one. Picture yourself driving to the funeral parlor or chapel, parking the car, and getting out. As you walk inside the building, you notice the flowers, the soft organ music. You see the faces of friends and family you pass along the way. And you feel the shared sorrow of losing, the joy of having known that radiates from the hearts of the people there. And as you walk down to the front of the room and look inside the casket, you suddenly come face to face with yourself. This is your funeral 3 years from today. All these people have come to honor you, to express feelings of love and appreciation for your life. As you take a seat and wait for the services to begin, you look at the program in your hand. There are to be 4 speakers. The first is from your family, immediate and also extended. So children, brothers, sister, nephew, nieces, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, who have come from all over the country to attend. The second speaker is one of your friends, someone who can give a sense of what you were as a person. The third speaker is from your work or profession. And the fourth is from your church or some community organization where you've been involved in service. Now, take the next 10 minutes and think deeply. What would you like each of these speakers to say about you and your life? What kind of husband, wife, father, or mother would you like their words to reflect? What kind of son or daughter or cousin? What kind of friend? What kind of associate? What character would you like them to have seen in you? What contributions, what achievements would you want them to remember? Look carefully at the people around you. What difference would you like to have made in their lives? So take 10 minutes here. I'm going to start a timer and just reflect. I'm just going to turn the camera off and take the next 10 minutes to write down or think about this statement. Does anyone want to share what they wrote down or what they thought of when they were doing this prompt? I think something I wrote down, I definitely want to be like a supporting sister who supports like Wesley in whatever he does, who spends time with him creating memories together, someone who's patient and who accepts like our differences, someone who creates projects together. Yeah, definitely like as we grow older and we have those skills, I like appreciate working together on a project together. So that's something that I thought of when I was doing this prompt. I think this is a very important activity to spend time on. I don't think the 10 minutes was enough. And a personal mission statement takes time to develop and to refine. You might have like a framework or you might have like a foundation or a draft of what your personal statement is. Like just from this 10 minutes, I already kind of know like, here's what's my general kind of mission statement, but I could spend more time refining it and really honing down on what I want people to remember me for or what I want to contribute back to society over my lifetime. And I'd like to conclude this event with a quote by James Clear that pretty much neatly summarizes today's topic. It's not necessary to change a person in order to change their behavior, just change their environment. And we did that today when we were reviewing the habit loop theory, that where we can create or break a habit by changing the cue, craving, response, and reward. Either make it obvious, attractive, easy, or satisfying, or make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. Claire goes on to say, similarly, it's not necessary to change your environment to change your behavior if you change your internal story. We learned today the top-down approach where we focus on our inner selves, focus on identifying our principles, taking on a proactive mindset, and identifying our own unique mission statement. I agree with Claire's quote, or what's he saying, that I think this latter framework should be our primary focus, what we spend the most time on, because like I said earlier, we're not always going to be able to change our external environment, but we are always in control of our internal selves. So if you're unsatisfied with your current situation, know that you can change your life using your unique human abilities, your self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent will. And I hope that today's activities gave you some new perspectives and something to think over, and that your principles and mission statement will help guide you in life and help you handle any challenges and any unknowns that you face. Thank you. So if you want to learn more, I do have resources. For example, the books, I'll link the books to our spread website. Because I didn't cover all the activities, we didn't have enough time, but the two that we covered from his book, I think is really helpful. But if you want to talk more about this, feel free to hit me up, and would definitely love to discuss more.